Even if the United States of America emerged as an independent country after 1776 and was recognized in 1783, the history of these lands runs far deeper than that. Thousands of years ago, the first people settled on the American continent. It is not exactly known how the Native Americans first came to inhabit these territories, but one theory suggests that people migrated from Eurasia around 30,000 years ago, crossing a land bridge known as Beringia, which once connected Siberia to North America during the Ice Age. This migration continued until about 10,000 years ago, when the glacial period ended and the land bridge became submerged by rising ocean waters. The early inhabitants were known as Paleoamericans. Over time, they migrated deeper into the Americas, forming tribes and nations that created complex civilizations and cultures. Among these were the Adena, Iroquois, Coles Creek, Puebloan, and Mississippian cultures. Each developed unique traditions, social systems, and forms of governance. Meanwhile, another part of today's United States, Hawaii, has its own unique and different history. The Hawaiian Islands were uninhabited until the 1st centuries AD, when Polynesian settlers arrived between the 1st and 10th centuries, laying the foundations of native Hawaiian civilization. Starting in the 15th century, European colonization began. In 1492, a Spanish expedition led by Italian explorer Christopher Columbus sailed westward in search of a new trade route to the Far East, but instead reached what Europeans came to call the New World. Following this discovery, more expeditions sailed west to establish colonies and trading posts. The Spaniards began building their vast American empire, using islands like Cuba, Puerto Rico, and Hispaniola as bases for expansion. France founded colonies in eastern North America, parts of the Caribbean, and coastal South America. Portugal colonized Brazil, while the English settled along the eastern seaboard of North America in the 17th century, joined by smaller numbers of Dutch and Swedes. The first successful English colony was Jamestown, established in 1607 on the James River in Virginia. As new waves of settlers arrived in the late 17th century, they developed commercial agriculture, particularly tobacco farming. Despite occasional conflicts with Native Americans, the colonies expanded rapidly. Each of the 13 American colonies had a slightly different governmental structure, but all were ruled by governors appointed from London, who relied on locally elected legislatures to pass taxes and laws. By the 18th century, the colonies were growing quickly due to low death rates and abundant land and food, attracting many immigrants. African slaves were imported from the British West Indies to work on tobacco and rice plantations, and by the 1770s, slaves made up about 1/5 of the population. The question of independence from Britain did not arise while the colonies still relied on British military protection against the French and Spanish. However, tensions grew after the costly French and Indian War, part of the larger 7 Years' War which Britain won, gaining control of Canada and Louisiana. To recover war expenses, Britain imposed new taxes, such as the Stamp Act of 1765, without colonial representation. This sparked outrage and the slogan, "No taxation without representation." The situation escalated through the 1760s and 1770s, culminating in the Boston Tea Party of 1773, a protest against British taxation. In response, Parliament passed the Coercive Acts in 1774, stripping Massachusetts of self-government and placing it under military rule. Outrage spread, and leaders from all 13 colonies convened the First Continental Congress to coordinate resistance, calling for a boycott of British goods and issuing a list of rights and grievances. At this point, full independence was not yet the goal, but Britain ignored the colonists' appeals, and in 1775, the Second Continental Congress was formed to organize the defense of the colonies. The American Revolutionary War began that same year. The colonies declared their independence in 1776, forming the United States of America. The Americans won key victories, including the Battle of Saratoga in 1777, which encouraged France to form a military alliance with the new nation. France, Spain, and the Netherlands joined the fight, balancing the power against Britain, which had no allies. Under General George Washington's leadership, the Continental Army endured hardships, trained effectively, and maintained morale. The revolution ended successfully with the Treaty of Paris in 1783, which recognized American independence and granted the new nation territories west of the Appalachian Mountains. In 1803, President Thomas Jefferson made the Louisiana Purchase, buying the territory from France for $15 million, doubling the size of the United States. Expansion continued as Texas joined the Union in 1845, and following the war with Mexico, the U.S. acquired more western lands. However, tensions between the North and South grew over slavery. When Abraham Lincoln was elected president in 1860, Southern states seceded to form the Confederacy. The Civil War began in 1861, after Confederate forces attacked Fort Sumter in South Carolina. Lasting 4 brutal years, the war ended with the Union's victory in 1865, the abolition of slavery, and the restoration of national unity. The late 19th century brought rapid industrialization and economic growth. Railroads expanded, cities grew, and the U.S. emerged as a rising global power. In 1898, the Spanish-American War resulted in a swift victory for the U.S., which gained control of the Philippines, Puerto Rico, and Guam under the Treaty of Paris. By the early 20th century, America's influence was global. When World War I erupted in 1914, the U.S. initially remained neutral, but joined the Allies in 1917, after repeated German attacks on American ships and a plot to involve Mexico against the U.S. The war ended in 1918 with the Allies' victory, ushering in a period of prosperity known as the Roaring Twenties. However, this prosperity collapsed with the Great Depression of 1929, a global economic crisis that set the stage for World War II. The United States entered the war after Japan's surprise attack on Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941. Fighting across Europe and the Pacific, the U.S. played a decisive role in defeating the Axis powers. Germany surrendered in May 1945, and Japan capitulated in September after the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. After World War II, the United States and the Soviet Union emerged as rival superpowers, entering a period known as the Cold War. This era was marked by an arms race, proxy wars in Korea and Vietnam, and the global struggle to contain communism. Domestically, the 1960s saw the rise of the civil rights movement, which secured voting and equal rights for African Americans and other minorities. The Cold War ended with the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, leaving the United States as the world's dominant power. In the 21st century, America faced new challenges. The September 11th terrorist attacks in 2001 led to wars in Afghanistan and Iraq. In 2008, the country faced its worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. Yet, despite wars, recessions, and political division, the United States continues to play a defining role in world affairs, a nation built on resilience, diversity, and the enduring pursuit of freedom.